Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time visiting. Today, I'm going to be bringing you along with me for an episode of This or That. Now, this is a series that I created to help me when I find that I have one or more decks that are sort of competing with another deck within my collection. For some context, a few sort of important things that I think you should know to put this video in its proper place. First of all, I get a lot of new things in. I buy a lot of new decks because I'm curious, I want to spend some time with them, I want to get to know them, I want to learn from them if I can. I also review decks, so sometimes I receive decks from publishers or deck creators, and then I try to figure out for me where it's going to fit in with my practice over the long term. So the amount of time that I spend with any particular deck can vary wildly, and a lot of that has to do with where it fits into my personal practice, the way that I work with tarot for myself, and also the way that I work with tarot for my clients. So keep in mind that I use decks in a number of different ways, and I also have a lot more coming in than the average consumer. So that's sort of some context to hopefully sort of lay the groundwork for what this is all about. But whenever I have started to sort of find myself with multiple decks that slide into the same sort of place in my practice, that's typically when I'll make one of these videos. So I'll put together the different pairings. And one fun thing that I like to do is in advance of filming this video, I put polls up on my community tab on YouTube so that those of you who watch my channel regularly and are subscribed have an opportunity to vote on which deck, if you were making the same decision as I am, which deck you would keep and which one you would perhaps let go of. So the idea is to vote for the deck that you would keep of the two. So I put those polls up on my channel a couple of weeks ago. I've collected your responses, and so I will be sharing the poll results as we go through each pairing. So the first pairing we have is the Ocean Dreams Oracle versus the Flow Tarot. So let me just pop the poll up on the screen. At the time that I'm recording this, the winner by not at all a landslide is the Flow Tarot. So these decks are very close. Now, there's been a lot of really interesting comments in these polls, and I definitely encourage you to go look at those on my community tab if you really want to hear how people reacted to these different pairings. But one of the comments about this one, if I remember correctly, was that this is an oracle and this is a tarot, and how can you compare them? So for this, I guess it's worth pointing out that in each of these pairings, I'm going to be sharing with you what I got these decks for, like what I wanted them to do in my practice. Now, I purchased both of these with my own money. I wasn't sent either for review. The first one, the Danielle Noel Ocean Dreams Oracle. Oh my gosh. So I actually chose this deck as part of my Say Yes to the Deck series, and I was besotted, like over the moon, absolutely in love, thought about this deck for a long time, pre-ordered it, was so excited. Let me just pull Flow Tarot out here. This deck, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Now, I love Danielle Noel's artwork. The guidebook is quite substantial. There's a lot going on in here, including, I believe, some sort of questions that you can use for reflections. There's really good stuff in here. And then here is the backings. I mean, this deck is so pretty. It's gorgeous. Like, it's absolutely beautiful. My sticking point with this deck has been every time that I've tried to work with it, nothing. Just nothing. And I mean, I love looking at it. It's gorgeous, but I don't get anything from it. And I wanted a deck that would help me connect to that watery energy, but this doesn't, this is absolutely unequivocally ocean vibes for sure. But this is a very particular type of ocean vibes. And I can't remember where I saw it, but somebody somewhere on TarotTube mentioned that this deck was more about, or felt to them to be more about space, I think I mean, I'm probably paraphrasing that very badly, but it has a lot of space vibes, much spiritual, like awakening kind of vibes, very starseed energy. But I look at these images and I'm like, these are breathtaking. I tried working with them in spreads. I tried working with them one card at a time. And I love how delightfully fluid this deck feels. It's so gorgeous. Undeniably beautiful. Love it. Love the edging, love the quality. Danielle Noel does beautiful work. There's something about this particular combination of keywords, the way that the guidebook entries are written, however, that doesn't make me feel like I'm connecting to water. It makes me feel, I don't know how to describe it. It makes me feel like I'm connecting to the universe, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the way this hits doesn't hit where I personally need it to hit. This is a deck. Oh, this is a good time for disclaimers. So if I don't choose a deck, like if I decide to let a deck go, I'm not immediately rehoming it. In fact, some of these I will probably not be ready to rehome for quite some time. This is one of them. I spent a lot of money on this deck. I really Aesthetically, it draws me in. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I just am not called to work with it. So this is most of the time, like with very rare exception, if I'm letting a deck go in this series, it's going into purgatory, which is just a holding space where I will sit on it for probably an obscene amount of time before I actually let it go. This is a deck I desperately want to work, but has just not been working for me. And the Flow Tarot, by contrast, is a deck that was completely off my radar. Someone suggested it to me a long time ago, and I remember looking at it and thinking the suits didn't work for me or something. As you can see, it's seen a lot of use already. I remember thinking the suits didn't work for me. I remember just not being sure, and then I just kind of tabled it, forgot about it. And then Marine over at The Waves of Your Soul did a video talking about this deck as like her #1 deck of, I think, 2022 or something. And by the end of the video, I had ordered this. I was like, I need it. I need it. I think I keep starting and stopping my sentences because I'm trying to put into words why this works for me as well as it does. And part of it, I think, is that I love the photography. It feels very grounded on planet Earth, which makes me feel like I'm connecting to the waters of the earth. Apologies if I'm repeating myself. But more than that, I feel as though it has really wonderful key phrases. Despite the fact that this is a tarot, I feel like I can very easily work with this almost in an oracle-like way. I can also work with it in a tarot-like way. So I have the Nine of Clouds. Now, the suits are very easy. They've all been renamed, but they're very easy to learn because what the creator of this deck did is used alliteration. So cups are clouds, so they both start with C. So clouds is the Nine of Cups, and here we have After the Storm, and this is just, oh, it's everything. And then pawns, P, are pentacles, right? And then we have, I'd like to get to another one. We have the Major Arcana, of course, but those are all renamed. I think most of them are renamed, not all of them. Here's the Lovers, but it's also called the Enduring Union. Snow is Swords. Who am I missing? Pawns, Snow. Oh, and then Waves is Wands. Waves is Wands. But this feels really versatile. This also did exactly what I needed it to do when I really needed a watery deck to hold my hand, so to speak. When I needed that comforting, watery, nurturing energy, this deck did that job for me. When I tried to do that with this deck, I just felt like it was very disconnected, like it was out of reach, like it was speaking to my higher self, but not the grounded self that really needed the support in that moment. And so this deck really showed up for me in a way. In any case, this one just really knocked my socks off. I feel like I can use it like an oracle if I'm craving a watery oracle. It's a very basic cardstock. It's like, it feels like make playing cards. Feels nice. It shuffles well. It holds up well. It doesn't crease or whatever on me. It's a really nice classic. If you liked the old US Games cardstock, it's a lot like that. But anyways, and then the little guidebook here is just fantastic. There's wonderful entries that really connect what the card is about. But it also has a little like affirmation at the bottom, like in the Five of Waves, which is the Five of Wands. The key phrase is flow around adversity. And the affirmation is I flow around trouble, right? So there's like affirmations. You can really work with this deck in an empowering way. So it feels very healing. It feels very nurturing. It feels like it holds my hand, which is exactly what I would want from a watery deck. So I really love the Flow Tarot. In this case, I feel like this is what I had been looking for and just didn't know what I was looking for, if that makes sense, from a watery deck. So my Ocean Dreams is going to go, as in into purgatory, and my Flow Tarot is going to stay. The next pairing is the Playful Heart Tarot versus the Happy Tarot. So I'll put the poll up and you can see how everybody voted. It was the Playful Heart Tarot at 66% at the time I'm filming this, and the Happy Tarot at 34%. So a lot of preference for the Playful Heart Tarot. Let me pull these out and talk about these a little bit. By the way, if you're curious, most of you know, but these beautiful bags that you see all my stuff in, that is my wife, Peggy. She has an Etsy shop called Sparks Creations that is always linked in the description box. We stan Peggy. She keeps me in beautiful bags, and I love her for it. I mean, I'm also married to her, so there's that. But I mean, I love her for the bags too. Anyways, let's talk about these two decks. So, oh, let's not put them in my little incense bowl. Okay. I have so many feelings about both of these. So let me see if I can articulate what's happening for me. These are both inner child decks for me, and they're both really, really incredible. The Playful Heart Tarot is by Zara at Kitten Chops, and It's an expert playing card printed deck, so it's on this gorgeous linen finish. If you're unfamiliar, the Expert Playing Card Company also printed the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. It's a beautiful linen finish. I think she's working on another edition of this deck, but I could be wrong. I will have her website linked below. I'll have all these linked below. I did originally buy the Playful Heart Tarot with my own money. Raved about it, loved it, used it for a long time. Zara did eventually gift me with the newest edition of the Playful Heart Tarot, and then I did rehome my first edition. Just so you know, my relationship with this deck and with the creator, I have met Zara, she's lovely. But the thing about this deck is that this is a deck that I feel like speaks to inner child work so well that I find myself, whenever it's time to do an inner child reading, I often reach for this deck before I'll reach for any other. I really like the emotions on the characters. I really like how vibrant it is. I really like that it's got this art style that reminds me or makes me feel like I'm having a conversation with my or somebody else's inner child when I'm working with it. There's something about this art style that just immediately takes my brain to this place. And that's really helpful in practice when I'm doing inner child work, which is what I tend to go to this deck for. The Happy Tarot, though, I have a lot of sentimental feelings about because this was my first ever inner child deck, and it was actually a copy of this deck was gifted to me. It was sent to me. In fact, I'm pretty sure this was the very first deck anybody ever sent me. It was a viewer of my channel, and it really touched me. It came with some candy. It was wonderful. It was such a happy moment. And I had that version of the deck for a long time. It was the original fully bordered version. I trimmed it and worked with my trimmed copy for a very, very long time. I'd edged it in all the different purples that sort of match the backs. I feel like I still have that copy somewhere. Maybe I rehomed it, but I think I still have it somewhere. In any case, there's something so glowy and beautiful, and it's very much a Candyland world. Now, this is mass market, whereas this is an independent deck, which is something to keep in mind. I love this deck, and like the Playful Heart Tarot, it has a lot of emotion on the characters. Sometimes you see a lot of happy, sometimes you see a lot of angry or sad, and I know it's called the Happy Tarot, and I'll tell you why, because the little guidebook for every card, this is one of those low scarabeo, so you only get a little bit of English, but in every card, including, here's the Tower, so here's an excellent example. You get a little way you can find happiness related to that card. So in the Tower, it says you can find happiness in releasing what no longer serves you. So as an example from another difficult card, let's find the Five of Swords. Let me put the cards down because that's messing with my grip here. They're in a weird order. Okay, let's do Ten of Swords. So the Ten of Swords says you can find happiness by recognizing finality. So it's not denying the difficulty in the cards. It's just telling you how you can focus on the positive. To be honest though, this is very much a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. It's super cute. It's super beautiful. But I find that in practice, I don't actually reach for this for inner child work. I have quite a bit in the past. Anyways, I just tend to gravitate towards this. There's just, again, I think it's the way that this sort of connects me in my subconscious to that inner child part of myself. Whereas this is a little bit glowy and perfected, and it's so cute. I love this deck. I do. But in practice, and I think this is the point of this series, right? In practice, I reach for this one. And this one just hangs there. It just hangs there. That being said, again, like the others, I'm not sure if I'm really ready to let this go, or if I just need to put it aside and not worry about it for a while. It's like I said, it's mass market. It's easy to get, but, and I don't think I finished my story earlier. I did eventually repurchase it myself, just to get the newer version from Low Scarabeo, which has that borderless with just the little bars on the bottom, so that I had a full size borderless version, 3-side borderless anyways, of the Happy Tarot. This is just a great deck. It's a great deck. It's just that these two sit so closely together in my practice that I inevitably neglect one of them. So I think the Happy Tarot is going to go into purgatory. I suspect this is one that may come back if I find myself missing it. So definitely not in a hurry, not going to take it out of its cozy bag. I'm just going to put it in my purgatory and not agonize, but Playful Heart Tarot will stay and Happy Tarot will go into purgatory for the time being. Our next pairing is the Rainbow Moon Tarot by Samantha West and the Wild Seeker Tarot. Now, let me pop up the poll. This one, I feel like bounced around quite a bit, but Wild Seeker Tarot won out in the poll, 62% over 38% for the Rainbow Moon. Let me talk about these decks, why I got them, where they sort of sit in my practice, what's going on, all that good stuff. So I bought both of these with my own money. The Rainbow Moon Tarot by Samantha West. There's something about Samantha West's artwork that really, I just find it so fascinating and charming. She has actually got another deck in progress that I might end up picking up, but in any case, the Rainbow Moon Tarot was a deck I got partly because I loved the wild variety of people that are in this deck, and I still like it for that. It's got great backings here and holographic gilding, and it's a really super affordable price. Like, look at her. Isn't she amazing? Like, the thing that I find a little challenging, though, I will say, is that a lot of the cards are renamed. So the court cards are renamed. These ones kind of mess me up a little bit. So we have Chancellor. Knight is still Knight. Chancellor. Let's see. And then I love this Lover's card, though. Come on. The pages are still pages. So it's just the Queens and Kings. So we have Chancellor and Warden. We have Chancellor and Warden. And I can never remember which one is the Queen rank and which one is the king rank, and there's no numbers or anything like that to sort of tip me off. So I was obsessed with this when I first got it. I love the quirk. I love that the characters are very otherworldly. Like, they seem like they could literally be from another planet. A lot of them have this like alien vibe about them, which is super fun. There's a lot of curvy bodied people here. We have some like a mermaid with like some pit hair, and I like this kind of thing because I feel like it can make people feel seen. And I'm looking at this, and in my mind, here's what, okay, let me show you the other one, because I'm already torn. So we're gonna go through this. So the other one that I got, this is the Wild Seeker Tarot. I also purchased this with my own money. So the Wild Seeker Tarot by Brina Shields. This is new-ish to me, and I am obsessed with it. Like, I'm absolutely obsessed. I love the artwork. This is what the backings look like. I got this on Etsy. The cardstock, nothing to write home about, but it's been holding up fine for me. And as you can see, it's quite a bit bigger. So the Rainbow Moon Tarot is very much like a standard tarot size. And I would say Wild Seeker is more of an oracle size, but the cardstock's thin, so I haven't had any trouble shuffling it. What I love about Wild Seeker, and there is definitely, now that I'm thinking about it, a big difference between the vibe of these. Whereas I feel like the Rainbow Moon has a lot of like sort of counterculture vibe to it. It has a lot of different expressions of people, a lot of different expressions of like sort of gender representation. There's more ability diversity. So there's a lot of things that this has going for it that I think I kind of backburnered in my mind while I was playing with this one. So I think I might, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But anyways, the Wild Seeker, this just knocked my socks off, partly because I freaking love the vibrant colors, but I will say this leans very feminine in its presentation. Now this is really wonderful. I love all the, like, again, we've got the body hair thing, we've got a lot of nudity, but it's the kind of nudity that is very tasteful. It's playful. It's vibrant. Did I say vibrant? I love this star card so much. So what I'm realizing, kind of looking at this and thinking about this, where this has been serving me really beautifully lately is in my own body acceptance work and my self-worth work. I love reaching for this, for that kind of work. I've just been having a great time with it. We're doing, in my channel membership, we have the Badass Unicorn tier, and we've been doing, in the Badass Unicorn tier, we do self-worth work, okay? But what we're doing right now is going through the different chapters in my book, The Self-Worth Path, and we're doing tarot spreads, and we do discussions, and I've been like wanting to reach for nothing else but this for that work since I got it. And it really just has come to stand out for me a lot in that type of work. And I was thinking to myself, well, this and the Rainbow Moon are both really colorful and both seem to hit me in this space of like acceptance. But I realized that the Wild Seeker meets me specifically in a space of acceptance. So I feel very seen by this deck. I feel like I see myself in it. I feel like I see my body in it. And while there's some diversity, it doesn't even come close to the kind of variety of people and bodies and such that I see in the Rainbow Moon. So I think what I'm realizing as I'm talking through these is that the Wild Seeker meets me in this space of self-acceptance. But the Rainbow Moon is a deck that I feel like I could reach for a lot of other people to help meet them in a space of acceptance. Because again, there's such a huge variety of types of people. And I mean, sometimes it's weird, right? This dude has like 6 eyes, you know? And it's fun and it's a little crazy. I think I might even just use this so much more if I pulled out, in fact, you know what we're going to do? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to fix my problem right now. So I'm going to pull out the Wardens and the Chancellors, which are the 2 that trip me up. I might put this part on speed up while I sort these out. Okay, I've separated out my Wardens and my Chancellors, and I'm just going to double check. Yeah, Warden is leader, Chancellor, manifestation, balancing. Okay, I'm very confident. Okay, so the Chancellors are the queens, and the Wardens are the kings. So y'all, I have a fine tip Sharpie. This is a mass market deck. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. This has been like the main reason I haven't reached for this deck is because I always get these two mixed up. So I'm just going to put a little Q on each of my Chancellors and a little K on each of my Wardens. I fixed my problem, y'all. Sometimes I think you just need to get out of your own head like I did here and just consider that maybe it's just one small little thing that's not working for you. And like, if it's not working for you, but you otherwise would really enjoy working with it, why not, right? So these aren't metallic Sharpies, so these dry pretty quick. So I think I'm good. I'm just gonna like insert them. I'm gonna do this because I'm too lazy to like sit here and shuffle and shuffle and shuffle. But I'm gonna stick these guys back in the deck at whatever point. And now I'm gonna shuffle. So there we go. I fixed it. I'm keeping both. I just realized I really like this deck. And again, it was just that stinking court card thing that was throwing me off. Let's just see. And I don't think the Qs and the Ks are going to be that distracting. Let's just see as I'm flipping through how I feel the first time I see one. Yeah, because this is easy. The mages are easy that have been renamed away from gendered titles because we have the numbers on there. So it's really easy to know who's who. That's never tripped me up. See? Chancellor, Queen, easy. Chancellor of Crystals, that's the Queen of Earth. I'm so down for this. I love this. Okay, this makes me so happy. I think that's the only thing that really got renamed, right? So crystals, we've got wands, daggers, cups, crystals. Yeah, okay. So that was the only sticking point, and I just fixed it for myself. And like, how awesome is that? And I brought you along for the ride. So these I thought were really doing the same job. It turns out they're not at all. And until I had them side by side, I hadn't really thought about that. And just so you know how I work when I do these videos, I don't know. I literally decide what's going to get paired. I put the polls up, and then I walk away until I pull the decks and sit down and film, which is what I did in this case. And I'm really happy I did that because I have been neglecting this deck. And now I won't, because I won't have that little sticking point. So I'm really pleased about that, because I do really enjoy the artwork. It's really fun and colorful. So they're both staying. Yay! We love a happy ending. The next pairing is the Wake Me Up Tarot versus the Lightseer Tarot. Let me pop up the poll. So this one was a landslide to some degree for the Lightseer's Tarot. Now it's worth pointing out that the Wake Me Up Tarot, I believe, is currently out of print or out of stock. I don't know if it's going to be restocked. I paid for this with my own money. I paid for the Lightseer's Tarot with my own money. And actually, I did originally have the Indie Lightseers, the original version, and I rehomed it because it started to get so nuts with everybody selling them, and it got crazy that I started to get afraid to use it. So I bought myself a mass market copy of the Lightseer's Tarot and played with it for a while, realized I was reaching for this way, way more. Even though the cardstock was better in the indie version, the book was better, I just used this one more. So once I got bonded to the mass market, I let my indie version go. I just felt like there was so much hype that it started to feel too precious to use, and I want to use my decks. So that's basically what happened there. But in any case, I love the Lightseer's Tarot so much. I haven't been reaching for it very much at all, and I've put it up against some other decks that I also really love. But this, I've considered letting this go in the past just because I feel like there's now more decks like this that hit the market that I really enjoy using. And the one thing about the Lightseer's Tarot is that it does tend to feel a little bit on the young side. But this is such an incredible deck with so much depth and meaning behind every single card, and it really works super well for me. There's a lot of intensity in the cards. There's a lot of just, I just wish this was not the Page of Cups. I don't like the feet. I would love, you know what I need to do? I should ask you all to tell me what you think of the Page of Cups, because it looks like I know it's very intentional. I know the idea is that the feet aren't on the ground. We're kind of floating off in La La Land. I kind of think that's the point. But because these feet seem to be in the same position as they are down here, but they're just up here, it feels like if this was an image that was on a roll, it's like the card got cut in the wrong spot. I just have such a hard time with it. And there's a pig flying, which I think is great. But like, it bugs the heck out of me because I feel like the image itself is disjointed. And I do think the point is that the Page of Cups thinks with their heart, not with their head. They're just kind of like daydreamy and wistful and rose-colored glasses and, you know, I don't know. But like, I would love to learn more about this image because this is an image that just, because this is like my personal significator a lot of the time, I don't know. I have feelings about it. Love this Two of Cups. I always have. I mean, I pretty much love almost every single card in this deck. The Page of Cups was one that I'm not overly fond of. I feel like there's one or two others that like weren't my favorite, but like, I mean, this is one of my favorite King of Pentacles of all time. Same with the Queen. Like it's very, 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 very good. But I've gravitated away from using it a lot. I've kind of had it just hanging there with no pressure to reach for it, like not feeling bad about it or anything. I just haven't been reaching for it a lot. And I picked up this Wake Me Up Tarot because I felt like there was something about this. It was modern. It was fun. I was totally influenced by my friend Tori. Like I immediately went out and bought it. And then I got it, and my box did come like this, by the way, just so y'all know. I mean, it does ship from like, I want to say like Thailand or something. I got it from Tavada. So again, it was really pricey. All the decks over there are really pricey, but the cardstock is really nice. I love the backings. I love the idea of sort of this awakening happening sort of in the center, and it's a reversible back, which is really cool. This has, I think mine's out of order. Yeah. I love the meanings depicted on a lot of these cards. But I thought the Light Seers felt young, and the Wake Me Up Tarot made me feel so young. Like a lot of it looks like it's literally happening at college, like specifically at college. I feel like that's all I can see when I look at this is college kids. And it makes me feel really old, and I don't see myself in it at all. And it's fun, for sure. Why the teddy bear? My teddy bear tarot is stabbed and bloody for some weird reason. Teddy bears don't have blood. Just anyways, it's a beef I have, but I mean, it's better than a person, I guess. There's a lot I love about this. I did a whole video on this deck, which I will put up in the cards if I think of it, but I love this strength card. Like there's so much to love about this deck. It's very, very well done. It's just that I feel like it's not for me. Like, but the tower is this wedding cake falling apart. And I think this was one of the cards that was almost a deal breaker for me when I was doing my walkthrough, because I just kept thinking if I'm pulling a reading for somebody who's married and I pull this card, how are they not going to feel stress and panic? Like that's the tower. And so often the tower is not that. I want to say like this is a very effective way to show what a tower experience could be, but my heart hurts. Like if I were to pull this card for myself, I feel like this would give me anxiety. Like I feel like it would make me feel scared in a way that I don't get scared by the tower card, but it's so specific. So I think that was probably part of it for me. So yeah, I think it's a really effective deck, but it feels like it's a time of my life that I'm past now. I'm not in this phase anymore. I don't know what I want to say about this. Just to say that it feels young. It feels very dating life focused and very college age. Most of it feels very college age to me. So it just doesn't seem to feel relatable or something, and it feels a little limiting. It feels just a little limiting, and I'm sure it's that tower card is a big part of it, but I don't think this is one, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is currently out of print. I think they're out of stock. Hopefully they'll restock it, because I do think it's a really good deck. It's just speaking to a part-time of my life that I'm not in, and I don't tend to keep decks that I feel like I can't also use for myself, but I'm not opposed to that. If I really feel like I have a need for this deck, I think I'll have it in purgatory for a while and see if I ever have that need. And if I do, then I'll consider bringing it back in. But for now, I feel like if I did have somebody younger, I could easily use the Light Seer and accomplish the same goal. But it's more versatile. I can use it for multiple types of clients, multiple types of readings. And so it feels just more versatile overall for me. So the Light Seer stays, and the Wake Me Up Tarot is going into purgatory. Our next pairing is the Wisdom of the Cailleach Oracle and the Old Ways Magic Oracle. All right, let me pop up the poll. So at the time I'm filming, 61% of you would keep the Old Ways Magic Oracle, and 39% of you would keep the Wisdom of the Cailleach Oracle. I feel like these are not very commonly discussed decks. Also, they're both fairly thin Oracle decks with, I think, very specific uses. So let me talk about that for a minute. So actually this Old Ways Magic Oracle was the first one that came in to my collection. This is by Naomi Cornock, and the guidebook is fine, kind of simple. Actually, both guidebooks are fairly simple, but there is a total of, does it say how many cards in here? They're not numbered, but there's 36 pages. Here we go. There's 36 cards, right? Sacred Journey. Yeah, there's 36 cards in the Old Ways Magic Oracle. It feels really thin, and I don't tend to reach for decks like this very often for, I don't know how to describe this. I don't tend to reach for really thin Oracle decks like this for like clarifiers or to use in client work. I tend to use these more for, this is the kind of Oracle deck I might reach for really personal work. And the thing I found with this is that this is delightfully Celtic and really beautiful, but it feels like I have a deck of art cards. It doesn't feel like it's talking to me like an Oracle deck. And there's a lot of Celtic wisdom in this deck. I haven't yet really felt called to do any sort of deep work with it. But the artwork is beyond incredible. I don't know. It feels more like it would make a really beautiful like altar card or maybe even spell card. And in fact, the more that I'm looking at this, I'm like, let me think about these keywords for a second. If I was to look at this as spell work, community, okay, protection, yes, connect, knowledge. I feel like these could make really incredible spell cards. So I think that's part of my problem is I hadn't figured out how I wanted to work with this deck. I feel like this could be really good for specifically having one out for intention work, for magical work, and I hadn't really thought of using it in that way. But the more that I'm looking at this, the more this feels like it actually covers all the areas I tend to do spell work. Okay, I'm totally in love with this again. We're not doing good at like letting things go, but the Old Ways Magic Oracle is going to stay because I now have a purpose for it. But originally I really thought it was going to lose against the Wisdom of the Cailleach, and that's because this Oracle has really turned into an Oracle deck that I use so much for deep work and practice. It's become a part of ritual for me where I really like working with this energy. Now, keeping in mind that I'm at a phase in my life where I feel like I'm moving away from the mother stage myself and very much into sort of the crone stage. Now this deck comes with the set of cards. Again, there's not a ton of them here. Probably a similar amount to the Old Ways Magic Oracle. Let's see if there's numbers in here and we can tell you. Okay, we have 24 cards, and then we get to the Circle of Old Women where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 24 plus 7, so we have 31 cards. Okay, so a little bit, I'm all over the place. There's 31 cards in the Wisdom of the Cailleach Oracle. Now, I'm doing a lot of work specifically with the Cailleach. There's some connections here to my own Celtic heritage, to Scottish heritage that I really enjoy tapping in. I like working with crone energy, and the Cailleach has that energy. The guidebook, while it's not super deep, like you get for every card, so what do we have here? Moon. And this also, the guidebook is not the easiest to work with. You have to find the card here. Very similar, actually, to the way the other one was set up. Moon is page 9. Okay, so if I go to Moon, we get intuition, dreams, and illusion, imagination, inner vision, creativity, recognition of your body's cycle and energy levels, heightened awareness, insight, and understanding, a time to use your intuition and follow your dreams. So I get a fairly simple message, but what I'm finding is I'm working with these cards one card at a time. I sit it out here on my reading table and it stays out for a period of time while I work with that energy. And I'm also working through this book, Visions of the Cailleach by Sarita d'Este and David Rankine, I'm so sorry, exploring the myths, folklore, and legends of the preeminent Celtic hag goddess. So this is really great because each one of these sections has a very small little bit of lore about the Cailleach, and I'm really, really enjoying learning about her. So I'm doing this in very small bits. I pull a card, I work with it, I read just a tiny bit from this book. Obviously I read the guidebook entry. So this is a deck that's an active practice with me, and I'm really enjoying working with it a lot. So I originally thought when I paired these two that like this was what I wanted this to be. And I think they're just two very, very different decks. So the Wisdom of the Cailleach is going to stay in my practice. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in its little basket where it lives on my reading table here. But that is staying. And so is the Old Ways Magic Oracle. But I think I'm going to actually consider putting this back. I'm tempted to just put this back in its like tuck box because I actually keep my magical sort of altar card, spell card decks on a shelf. And I reach for those when I want to do magical work or I want to have an intention card out and then do magic around that card. I think these will be actually really powerful for that. So I'm super excited that I realized that while I was flipping through it today because this has now a very specific function. So we're not letting go of a lot of things, but that's okay. Our next pairing is the Prism Tarot versus the Pastel Magic Tarot. Let me pop up the poll. So at the time I'm filming, these are really close. Prism Tarot is coming in at 57% and Pastel Magick at 43%. Just like with the Wisdom of the Cailleach and the Old Ways Magic Oracle, in case I didn't mention, I purchased these with my own money. The Prism Tarot, I found out about this when somebody actually sent me a message asking if this would make a good deck for Tarot with Training Wheels, which is my free course here on YouTube where I teach a single keyword method for learning the tarot, and I thought it was brilliant. I think this is a brilliant little deck. It's an indie deck. It doesn't come with a guidebook. It has gorgeous hollow edges, really funky, bright colored backs. And instead of a guidebook or any kind of pamphlet, so no extra paper, you get in the inside of the box some basic instructions, including the, the renaming of the court cards. So novices are pages, apprentices are knights, oracles are queens, and masters are kings. And then for the minor arcana, gems are pentacles, raindrops are cups, lightning are wands, and clouds are swords. So I do think this kind of thing, if the keywords work for you, and this is always the caveat, the reason my Tarot with Training Wheels course is about coming up with your own keywords is because I want you to find keywords that work for you specifically. But with that said, I did like a lot of these keywords, and it's a very basic deck. The artwork is very, very simple, and then it's got keywords. So the 3 of Lightning, which is the 3 of Wands, the Journey. 10 of Raindrops, 10 of Cups is Fulfillment. The Empress is Receive. The Fool is Take the Leap. Apprentice of Gems, which would be your Page of Pentacles, is Efficiency. I think for a memorized deck, it actually would have been better if they stuck with the traditional names and titles, only just for the purposes of learning. But this totally works. Temperance is Just Breathe, which I really like. And I really like the way that this is set up. But I got it more as a curiosity to see what I thought of it for like maybe really quick grab readings. But because I have my own keyword associations, I found that the keywords just kind of caused me to hiccup a little bit here and there with reading, instead of going with what I would maybe have originally gone with. Oh, we have a reversed card there. Is that the only one? I think so. So anyways, that's the Prism Tarot. It's super fun. I hadn't really heard anybody talking about it. I think it's a neat little deck. And if you want a deck where you can just quickly pull it out and do a reading using a set of keywords, the artwork, it's pippish, but the pips are kind of arranged in a way that makes sense. And there's a little bit to the artwork to help key you into the meaning of the card. It's just a fairly minimal, like laid back deck in that way. Really sweet little independent deck. So that is the Prism Tarot. And then the Pastel Magick Tarot. I think I got this off of the potlatch table the last time I was at the Northwest Tarot Symposium. And it's so fun. It's really fun, but it manages to be this very super simple, like vectorized, like sort of style artwork deck. But even though it's super simple and very pippish, it manages to be incredibly diverse considering how few people are in the deck. So you have the majors, and you get like people from all sorts of cultural backgrounds, different sort of gender situations. But then the pips are very simple, right? It reminds me a lot of what I kind of wanted from the Kawaii Tarot, the original one, the little simple one that comes in like playing card style cards. But this has the sort of diverse people, these really cute icons. Like, it's not a complicated deck. It's very clean and simple. But if I want a just quick little reader, and if I want a deck that I'm not fussy about, this is a little bit glossy, I feel like I'm not fussy about it, right? There's nothing about this that's going to have me pausing and poring over the images. But like this, it's simple. It's super, super simple. But it's fun. And for now, I think I want to keep it. The Prism Tarot, though, I just feel like it's a little bit too limiting for me personally, but I really think the premise of it is great. I just think I'm too stuck on having my own personal set of keywords. So for me, the Prism Tarot is going to go, and the Pastel Magick Tarot is going to stay. Our next pairing is the Dark Goddess Tarot versus the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot. Let me pop up the poll. So as of the time I'm filming, 54% of you would choose the Intuitive Night Goddess and 46% the Dark Goddess. But let's be honest, this was a dead heat for most of the polling time. So I think we're really torn on this. They are very different, and yet that's sort of the ... of all of this. So the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot is, I think, a deck that I was really, in a way, influenced. You know, I bought this with my own money. I bought this with my own money. Everything I bought with my own money. I bought this with my own money. I bought the Dark Goddess Tarot with my own money. This is the mass market version of the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot, and I did have kind of a weird thing with the publisher where when I got this deck, the lamination was messed up on a couple of the cards where it was literally wrinkled and bubbling. And I reached out to the publisher and they said they would send me a new copy of the deck, and they never did. That was a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. I have used this a bit. The struggle I've had with the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot, it's really delicate and pretty and lovely. I really am attracted to the renamed Magers. So many of them are renamed. Here we have the Witch for the Magician. I'm having feelings now. Okay, so anyways, let me talk about my issue with this deck. It feels very lonely. When I look at this deck, there's always only one figure on the card, never multiple. And that, it makes it feel kind of isolated. Now, I've mentioned this in videos before, and some of you commented that you felt like that brought it into a place of sort of quiet solitude, a contemplative space. And I think that's really cool. But for some reason, I just feel like it feels too quiet, like I'm in the void. I don't feel connected. I don't know if that makes any sense. But now I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm just not sure. We'll see. Let me just put this aside. Let's talk about the Dark Goddess Tarot. So I knew this would possibly get me in trouble. This one's not really in any risk. It's really special. The reason I put this up against the Intuitive Night Goddess is because I feel like both bring in that sort of goddess energy for me. But the Dark Goddess Tarot is very intentional. It tells me what every goddess is. I'm currently working with Ishtar right now, who's the Chariot card. This month, but I feel like I can do the kind of in-depth work with this. I have the mass market guidebook, by the way, and then I have the original indie version of the tarot. Now, when I got the, these are my cards I'm working with right now. When I got the indie version, there was no big guidebook you could get with it anymore. Like, I think you could get it via PDF, but I just got it via the app. I really like this original indie version with the gray borders. I like the way this is set up much better than the mass market. I think the mass market looks prettier with its border situation and its pretty banners, but it just interferes with the artwork, which I don't like. And I love this cardstock. This is just lovely. This feels so great to me for a goddess deck, and I love that it gives us the title of the card and the name of the goddess, so you can work with it as a tarot if you just want to like fly by the seat of your pants with it as a tarot. That's maybe not the only way to work with it as a tarot, but that's what I kind of think of. Or you can work with it almost more like I am right now, where I'm working with sort of the energy of each goddess in like slow practice, right? So that's kind of what I'm enjoying about this. But I feel like even though this is also isolated in the sense that you never really have a whole lot of interactions between characters, they're all by themselves, much like they are in the Intuitive Night Goddess, it's for a purpose, right? Like I feel like I get to know the goddesses. And that actually makes me remember one thing that I think I had an issue with the Intuitive Night Goddess is I don't think it tells me who any of these figures are. Like it's like they're goddesses, but like I don't think it tells me. So let's just grab one. So here we have the Mystic. That looks like it could maybe be like Aphrodite or Venus or something. And she is the Hierophant. So let me go to the Hierophant. I think I remember this being one of my issues. Yeah, a mermaid goddess stands. So yeah, they don't tell us who it is. And I don't think they do that in any of these. Yeah, the goddess does this, the goddess does that. Now, that could be great. And possibly it makes this more expansive for use as a tarot, because then you can work with this as sort of the divine feminine in general, like a message from the goddess. Ooh, that could be really powerful. I'm a little torn right now. I keep kind of playing. I don't know how I feel. I wonder if my issue with the Intuitive Night Goddess is that I haven't used it in the way that it would work best for me. I'm feeling like this would be such a lovely deck to pull a reading for a message from the goddess specifically. And I'm thinking that I don't have a lot of decks where I can do that. I have decks that help me tap into a specific goddess, like my Goddess Oracle, or my Goddess on Earth Oracle. But I don't really have a lot of decks that I feel like where I can tap into like where this deck represents the divine feminine as a whole, and I could have like sort of a conversation with the goddess with this deck. I think I could do that with this deck. That's interesting. I hadn't considered that either before starting to play. So yeah, I think I might actually try that. Like I feel like this could be really good for dark or full moon readings. I think I need to spend some more time with this and see if I like using it in that more spiritual way, because from just a straight tarot way, it doesn't quite hit where I want it to hit. But in a spiritual way, this could feel Like I'm looking at it now and it already feels much more magical. Interesting. Okay, so I'm just like, we're just playing. That's what we're doing during this video. And it's going to be 1,000,000 hours long because apparently I'm just having to like pause and explore every single deck. But I think what I'm going to do with this deck is instead of hanging it back on my wall to just be a regular tarot, I'm going to put it in a spot where I can consider using it specifically for full and new moon conversations with the goddess. Whereas my Dark Goddess Tarot, I'm continuing to work with like a card over a full month as a separate practice. I feel like I'm all over the place, but I'm keeping both. So not as much decluttering as I was imagining, but we're okay with that. The piles are getting a little out of hand over here on my table. That's all right. The next pairing is the Objective Oracle versus the Threadbound Oracle. I'll pop up the poll. I think the problem here was that most of you didn't know about the Objective Oracle, so thank you to whoever in the comments actually had the wherewithal to link a video where you could see the deck. That did not occur to me because it's currently out of print. But the poll at this point still had almost 80% of people voting for the Threadbound with about, well, 79% and 20% going for the Objective Oracle. So let me talk about these and sort of share some of my thoughts. I really like the Threadbound Oracle. I feel like it's been in this or that's before and has obviously always made it through those cuts. And I really like the Objective Oracle. But in order to kind of conceptualize this, let me talk about how I imagined using these decks and why I'm sort of struggling a little. So I want a deck that I can pair with more modern tarot. So things like the Rainbow Moon Tarot even, or the, which is kind of crazy out there, but like also my like This Might Hurt Tarot, Light Seers, the Tarot of Oneness, the Unfolding Path Tarot, the decks that feel like they're set in the modern age, if that makes sense. And for that, I feel like this little Objective Oracle, this was such a fun one. I was really excited when this hit Kickstarter and I talked about it in Hot Takes. I'm not always a fan of black and white decks. However, I feel like this is really fun. It's got modern-ish, that's kind of modern. It's got modern-ish items. It names what the item is, and then it has keywords printed right on the cards. You can really just use this in a very divinatory way, in a clarifying way. It feels really usable. I don't often reach for clarifying or oracle decks, or just generally oracle decks while I'm reading, when I'm working with a really modern deck. I tend not to do that. But wine glass, jump rope, you know, balloons, shovel, brick, like it's all kinds of cool stuff. And so it just kind of becomes usable. And I think because it's black and white, I don't have to worry about the art style looking really weird next to another deck. Not that I really care that much, but it is something I sometimes think about and therefore want to be able to, yeah, not have it kind of get in the way, I guess. So the Objective Oracle works really well for that. The Threadbound Oracle is such a delightful special deck. This is by Cedar McLeod. This is such a great little production. Like even just the way that the packaging looks like a little book. And when you open it up, it's a magnetic box. It still looks like a book, just the way that the guidebook sits in here so perfectly. And you have this like little book plate here. And then you have your guidebook. And then the cards themselves are linen finish. And I just realized this would pair so well with the Rainbow Moon. Stop it, Lisa. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm having issues today. My issue with this is that I don't often reach for it because I have this linked in my mind to the world of this deck. So there was actually a, I want to say it was like a young adult novel that Cedar McLeod wrote called The Ties That Bind, I believe. This has a very magical library theme to it. What I like about this is that you have Cedar's awesome colorful artwork, you have the title, you have several keywords. So you have Ace of Thread, Wandering, Warmth, and Gentleness. The train is transition, travel, and liminal space. So you see what I mean? You have lots of different, it's a very usable deck. But for whatever reason, I just never ever reach for it. I love this tapestry card. The artist. But it feels diverse, it feels more modern-ish. But what I've realized is it feels like it's in its own, it just feels like it's in its own world. And so because it's in its own world, I don't often think to reach for it. But I do really like it. It's on a like a matte linen finish cardstock, which is really nice too. I mean, it's a lovely, fun deck. And I think this is one of those decks that I might just be okay not using a lot. I think that's where I'm sitting with this. Yeah. So as you can tell, we're making good progress. I don't know. I feel like I want it to be a clarifier for modern decks. And I think like the other decks, part of the issue might just be the way in which I'm trying to work with it. Like instead of thinking of it like an oracle deck with a clarifier, maybe I need to pull this and use this more like a tarot. Here's where I think I've landed. The objective oracle is incredibly versatile. The Threadbound oracle, I have mixed feelings about. I love it in theory. I never seem to have the right circumstance with which I want to reach for it. Plus it has the perfect bag match. Like, anyways, this is going to stay. Y'all, I'm really on the struggle bus, I feel like, today. Our next pairing is the Connected and Free Oracle and the Whispers of Lord Ganesha Oracle. Let me pop up the poll. So 62% of you would prefer the Connected and Free, and 38% of you would prefer Whispers of Lord Ganesha. So let's talk about both of these decks and my thoughts and feelings, and then we'll see where I end up. I mean, you never know. This video is kind of all over the place today with what I'm keeping versus not. Usually it's pretty much I keep one, I let one go, but that's not been how it's been going this time. So the Whispers of Lord Ganesha, I've had this oracle for a really, really long time. It's on Blue Angel's older glossy cardstock. It's super shiny. It's very vibrant. I edged mine in this yellow, which has faded quite a bit because I've used this deck quite a bit. So this has gotten a lot of play. It's really vibrant. The guidebook is fantastic. It's by Angela Hartfield. I've always been drawn to the really vibrant color of this deck. It just really shines. Oh, this card has like a serious like dent in it. Look at that. Can you see that dent right there? It's gotten some use, this deck, and we've had some good times. One of the things I really like about this is I love the acceptance card. It's so lovely. There's something about this character. It's just really beautiful art. There's a lot of light in the art, but I really like that there is chakra cards built into the deck. I love that about this. There's our throat chakra card. The keywords are really fantastic. Love this understanding card. It's so beautiful. But in reality, I don't use this much. It was a deck that I used a lot in a particular context for a time. There's a solar plexus. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. I hate the bordered backs. Why? Why, if the front is borderless, do the backs have border? I don't like it. Plus, I don't like when one of the images on the back is also on the front, and there is a card in here that matches. There it is. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So it's this Inner Knowing card is also the backing. Like, I prefer when it's unique art on the back, but anyway. Little things. There was a time in which I really enjoyed using this deck, but I have been sitting on it and sitting on it and sitting on it. And really, I've only reached for it once, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years. Like, it's been a long time since I felt like this was the deck to reach for. Now, the Connected and Free Oracle, on the other hand, now this one I believe is, you can't get this anymore, I don't think. It's by Inner Hue. Mine has a vertical bow, I guess. It curls this way. I love this deck. It's really versatile, and it also has a set of chakra cards built in. And I like having a deck like this that's got that kind of color, that's got this sort of nature pictured on it. It's got a gentle vibe, and I love the keywords. I also feel like this deck can match with a lot of other decks very easily. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, I think this deck actually could match quite nicely with my modern decks in a way that the Threadbound Oracle doesn't. Interesting. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking looking at this. I think I can let the Whispers of Lord Ganesha go. I think my time with that deck is over. But also, like, I could match this with the Light Seer's Tarot. I could match this with the Unfolding Path. I can match this with the Tarot of Oneness really beautifully. This is actually, you know what? This is actually my modern matchup deck. I love the key phrases. It's not set in any particular time period, but there are a few modern objects on the cards. I've always loved this deck so much. And you know what I think? I think this deck, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and let my Whispers of Lord Ganesha go. I'm going to let my Threadbound go. Because when I think about the Threadbound next to this one, this one is so much more versatile for me. So much more versatile. And I've had it for a long, long time. It's always served me well. I often think to reach for it. Like, it really stands in. And I'm thinking maybe I'll purgatory this little Connected and Free too. I know this sounds a little counterintuitive, but I think this Connected and Free if I don't have other decks that are kind of like I feel like I should be using, I think I'd use this even more because I love reaching for this. I really truly love reaching for this. This feels like it's right up there with the Roots and Wings Oracle deck for me. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to let the Whispers of Lord Ganesha go, the Objective Oracle, and the Threadbound. That's what I think I'm going to do. And again, by letting it go, I mean I'm going to put it in purgatory, and if I miss any of them, I'll pull them back out. No biggie. But this is how I think it's going to go. That makes me feel a lot better, actually. I am going to get in trouble with this pairing. Okay, this pairing is the Devas of Creation and the Multidimensional Devas versus the Soul Cards 1 and 2 combined. Whew. Okay, let me put up the poll and then we're going to talk about it. So 66% of you, I don't know if y'all were voting on my behalf or your own behalf, but it seems like you were voting on your own behalf. Soul Cards 1 and 2 wins out over the Devas of Creation and the Multidimensional Devas. I know a lot of you were shocked that this was even a thing. I'm not in any way, like the soul cards are not at risk. My soul cards 1 and 2, if you've never heard me talk about these are beloved. I've had this particular set of these combined decks for like 25. I don't know, how old am I? I've had these since I was like 20. So I've had them for a long, long time, okay? They're really gorgeous. They're open-ended. They help me connect to an energy bigger than myself. They help me with past life work. They help me with spirit work. They help me because they don't have any predefined meanings. There's no keywords. There's no book. There's just these images that are so potent. And I love this deck. I do a lot of really deep, intense work with this deck. Again, very safe. Certainly not going anywhere. Ever, ever, ever. Super safe. Like, it's a thing. The comments were hilarious, by the way. I was really appreciating the comments. By the way, just on the previous decks that I've covered, the Whispers of Lord Ganesha, Objective Oracle, and Threadbound Oracle were all decks I paid for with my own money. Same thing with the Connected and Free, in case I've left anybody out. These two decks were sent to me by Scylla as a bit of a thank you. I've covered some of her other decks that I've purchased with my own money and really, really enjoyed them. She sent me these. She just asked me if there was anything she had that I didn't have yet that I was interested in, and I had the Devas of Creation already on my wish list. I was definitely going to be purchasing this at some point, and then she just sent me both of them, which was very generous and kind of her. I have a sticking point with these decks, and I don't know if I can fully articulate it, but the best thing I can think of to express it, the best way I know how to express it, is that, and this is not a criticism, these are really incredibly deep decks. Oh, don't throw them all over the place, Lisa. There's a lot to these. They're stunning. I love Scylla's art style. The premise of the Devas of Creation, we have planets, we have like oceans and harvest, and I'm not telling you what's on each card because I don't know them that well yet, but they're like spirits of energies of this universe that we live in. I find this deck really hard to get to know and to relate to. It's so full of so much depth. Like Scylla does not do anything a little bit. Like everything is very well thought out. These guidebook entries are really like substantial. It feels difficult for me to access the messages here. I'm just struggling with that with this one. And so it feels like it feels like it could be with this artwork something a lot like what the Soul Cards does for me, which is why I put the two together. But instead it brings me into a space that feels like it's taking me somewhere, but that I'm having a hard time taking the journey. It actually reminds me a lot, strangely, of the experience that I had with the Weaver's Oracle, where it's just full of tons and tons of depth, but I just have a hard time connecting because it's almost like it feels like it's talking over my head. And it's not. Scylla's descriptions here are really beautiful. They make sense, but it's just like it's talking about, it feels like these cards read for humanity versus reading for me, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel quite as personal as I feel like I want it to be or need it to be. So that was the situation that I had with the Devas. And I think they're really beautiful. I just don't know entirely how to work with them maybe yet. And I would be super curious if you have any feedback, how you work with them, how they read for you, like in what context you use them, what your practice looks like with them. I'd be super curious because I'm struggling. And I had the same issue with the Multidimensional Devas. I really love the premise of this one because this one speaks to different planes of existence. So we even have the first few cards are different dimensions. So the first dimension all the way through the 8th dimension, the 9th dimension, the 10th dimension, and then we get into cosmic consciousness. I mean, these are stunning, and these are even more, I would say, I love the cardstock on these a lot, and they're beautifully gilded. So you have, again, I love Zella's art. There's something about it that takes me places. Ooh, like what's this card 37? It looks like a little beastie. Let's just see. Because I think I had the same issue with the guidebook here. Again, the guidebook is incredible. I'm just worried I'm not getting what I'm supposed to get from it. Okay, so this is greed. You've drawn the greed card. Greed is complex. We can be greedy for enlightenment or for approval. So, okay, that works actually. I wonder if this one is actually even better for me. Maybe it speaks. Let's pull another random card and see if I can get a good divinatory message. We have card 7 here. So what's 7? Let's see. If you draw this card, is to think about eternity versus transience. Like the colors of a bubble bath, extraordinarily beautiful, but so brief. Some visions are transient and can never be held. Like the bubbles, the worlds we see in the 7th dimension seem ephemeral, a challenging concept for us given our usual Western need to have and hold. If, however, you can hold the vision lightly, like an iridescent bubble, the 7th dimension offers the vision of an opening into a new world, the quintessence perhaps. Other meanings might be about messages coming in from the divine, also, potentially, opportunities that arrive through synchronicity, not will. It's about lifting yourself above the usual noise to see the colors behind the color, the meanings behind what's seen and heard. So this feels like I just got a message. So let's try another one. Maybe this is the one that I need to start with. Maybe that was my issue, is I was trying to get to know the Devas of creation first. I might try working with this one first. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to purgatory my Devas of creation. Again, not to necessarily immediately get rid of it, but to see if I can build a relationship with this deck first. I feel like this could offer me a gateway into this world. I like the way the guidebook gives me some sort of interpretations that I can use in a divinatory way, in an oracle style way. I think this could work out a little better. So I think I'm going to, for now, keep the multidimensional Devas in my rotation, do some more work with it. And of course the soul cards are safe. And then I think I'm going to put Devas of creation into purgatory. But I would be super interested to hear y'all's thoughts on how you work with those decks. Okay, the next pairing is the Way of the Panda Tarot versus the Tarot Renard. Uh-oh. Let me put up the poll. So this was so close. 52% of you said Way of the Panda. 48% of you said Tarot Renard. Let me talk about this and why. So the Tarot Renard is the sweet, adorable Fox Tarot by Celia Millsville. And the Way of the Panda Tarot is the incredible Panda Tarot by Kimberly Sands. So, yeah, illustrated by Celia LaBelle. There's 2 Celias. I didn't realize that. Anyways. So here's I technically kind of have an issue with both of these not being decks I reach for as much as I would like to. And that is partly because I don't have a specific panda thing. I don't have a specific fox thing. Okay, I have a unicorn thing. We know that. Any of the decks I have that are very single animal specific, whether it's my cat deck, my dog deck, the panda deck, the fox deck, I have the same problem with all of them. Because they're not my thing, specifically my thing, like the unicorns are my thing, I don't tend to reach for them as much. I tend to reach for animals, decks that have a variety of animals. But between these two, they have a lot of things in common. Namely, the Way of the Panda Tarot. I mean, I will never get over this bag match. Like, this is fabric that Peggy and I just found when this deck was about to come out. And I was like, oh my gosh. And when I got the deck in and saw how perfect it matched, I was like, anyways, the things that make me happy. So the Way of the Panda Tarot, this is fantastic. Now, part of my attraction, or the reason why I get excited about the Way of the Panda Tarot, though, is because I think that the guidebook, the big chunker book of pandas, not just the little one that comes in the deck, although this is great too, but this is the Kickstarter edition of this deck. I purchased it with my own money. This one, I feel like I have an opportunity to get to know this deck at a deeper level, even though it's all pandas and I'm not a specific panda person. I also really like the roly-poly, squishy nature of the pandas. There's something very comforting and cuddly about them that makes me happy to look at them. And it's got this storybook style artwork that I really like. I struggle with the cards occasionally, but not usually. Usually I know what they're trying to tell me. But I really like that I can dive deep with that bigger guidebook, and the way that Kim did the bigger guidebook, it's so great. She did such a great job on it, and it makes me happy. So I don't reach for this one very much, but when I do, I have a really good experience with it. I don't struggle to know which card is which, so that obviously makes a difference as well, which is one of the things I have trouble with the Tarot Renard, which we're going to talk about. So it's a single animal style deck, which already kind of puts it in the I use it less frequently category, but I love this deck. Now, the Tarot Renard, this was another say yes to the deck purchase for me. I love this. It's so sweet. This is another deck that has a bow on the short side, like curls this way. kind of, I think it just came that way. Celia Melville's artwork is so beautiful. And this is all foxes, and it's also super storybook and sweet. The numbered cards are fine because you have a suit symbol with the number, and I believe Celia did that because she's a native French speaker, but she wanted this deck to be bilingual. Then I struggle a little bit with some of the court cards. So this is, I believe, it says KC, and I believe this is the Knight of Cups, excuse me, Knight of Coins. And then this is the Queen of, oh, okay, I see. Okay, so I think this is the deal. I believe the letters are bilingual. So it's either K for knight or C for cavalier, I believe, which is the French word. Just like I believe it's Q for queen or R for there's an R word that's French for queen. So I think that's what that's supposed to be. Is that supposed to be the queen? But then when I get to the king, where is that? I want to, because I definitely had some trouble. Yeah, see, this is another K. So we had K for the cups already, or was that the coins? So I have to look it up all the time. Like I can't, yeah, here. So this is a K, and it's clearly, to me, this looks like a knight, right? Because he's traveling, he's got his coin. This looks like the Knight of Coins to me. But this is also a K. Oh, I see. So this is a KC, so C for cavalier, which would be the knight. And this is a KR, so the R is the king. So KR is king, KC is knight. But I have to think about it every single time. Which throws me off. That said, I really love these illustrations, but I just never reach for this. Should I write on this deck? Would that solve my problem? Okay, so I fixed my problem with the Renard, where I now can easily identify my court cards. And I'm going to try to work with this deck some more because I'm looking at the art here and I really, really love how storybook sweet this is. And I also really love how storybook sweet my Panda Tarot is. So that's what I'm done. I'm keeping them both. But now that I've marked up my Renard, I think I might actually use this deck a lot more. Why didn't I do that before? I don't know. Stubbornness, I guess. I'm like, I should just be able to remember. But like, quality of life upgrade, y'all. Just a fine, ultra fine point Sharpie. That's what we did. So I'm keeping both of these. And if I still find myself not reaching for it, then that's different. But, I think that was my big issue, was just the court cards, just struggling, and it would slow me down, and then I would like doubt myself, so then I wouldn't reach for it, because I'm like, oh yeah, I forget how the court cards work, much like with that Rainbow Moon Tarot. So keeping both of those. The next pairing is the Woodland Warden's Oracle versus the Herbal Astrology Oracle. Let me pop up the poll. So at the time of filming, 74% of you would prefer the Woodland Warden's Oracle, and the other 26% of you would prefer the Herbal Astrology Oracle. The Woodland Warden's Oracle deck was actually sent to me as a gift from a viewer, and the Herbal Astrology Oracle was a deck I bought myself from my local metaphysical shop. So the Woodland Warden's was a deck I had talked myself out of. I think I anti-hauled it actually, and then I was sent it by a lovely human who thought I might like it and was very, very right. So I fell in love with this deck. What I like about this, it ticks so many boxes for me personally. The muted tones are not necessarily the first place I go when I think about oracle decks or decks in general. However, we have animal and plant energy combined in a really beautiful way. And thankfully, my animal identifying brain does not get stretched too much because it tells us what it is and what the plant is, and then gives us a single, powerful, expansive keyword. So here we have butterfly and snowdrop, and the keyword is hope. Here we have the lizard and the pitcher plant, and the keyword is stagnation. Goat and willow, we have overcoming obstacles, etc. So it's really, really beautifully done. The artwork is exquisite. So there's that. I love the ladybug and the sweet pea for happiness. The badger and ginkgo for healing wounds. Now, this is all great. Aesthetically, it's a beautiful deck. We get a bit of animal and a bit of plant energy. So for me, this works really well for tapping into either of those energies or that natural world energy. I can pair this with my animal decks. I can pair this with the Brady Tarot. I can pair it with the Okash and Thorn if I want to, of course. I can also pair it with my Pacific Northwest Tarot, although the coloring is much different. But energetically, this pairs very well with anything nature-y, right? Really works well. Love it. Beautiful. Stunning. And then I was having a really rough month, and I walked into my metaphysical shop, and I was like, this is pretty, and I just brought it home without, kind of sight unseen. But when I got it home and I started looking at it, I just This has also got very muted tones, and it also tells us what the plant is. We get plant energy, and then we have a keyword. I'm not entirely sure of the astrology bit. I don't fully get it in this deck, but that's okay. Here we have Rue, and the keyword is protection, Blue Lotus, and the keyword is intuition. So the keywords are great here. The art is muted. That's what the backings look like. Like, I could also see this pairing really lovely. We also have like an animal and a plant. Do we have that throughout? I don't think we do. Like, here we have Damiana, but we have a crow. Yeah, I don't think that's, here we have a lion, but we have, it's not like varied. Like, it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if we have the same animals. That's a really bizarre, I don't know what's happening there. We have like an I Ching trigram. There's too much happening. I don't know. So this, I don't think this is my style. Basically, that's the punchline. This was an impulse buy when I was having a bad day, and I should have sat with it a little longer and realized that this style is not necessarily for me, because I really don't think that it is. I don't really tend to reach for specifically herbal decks. I just don't. The Woodland Wardens works because it gives me some plant energy, but it's like mixed in with animal energy. Oh, and the guidebook. I meant to talk about the guidebook. So anyways, I'll talk about that in a second. Let me get on track. The Herbal Astrology Oracle, it does have a really nice chunky guidebook with a lot of information about the plant and then some guidance. It looks really, really well done. I just don't think this deck is up my alley, and I probably should have been a little more thoughtful before picking it up. I was there, it was a deck I hadn't played with before, and I was like, oh, try this one, which doesn't often work out well for me, so I'm not going to be keeping that. But I did want to circle back real quick to Woodland Wardens, because there was a question in the comments about why people love this deck so much. And yes, part of it is that we have animal plant, it tells us what they are, and it gives us a really, really good keyword, so you can just use it out of the box without a lot of effort. But then also, if you get into the guidebook is incredible. You get a full black and white illustration. It's written really, really beautifully, and you get in this like single paragraph for every card, like a big long paragraph, you get information on why the animal and the plant are tied into the meaning of the card. So you get, for example, the snail and huckleberry, it says the meaning is trust in the trust in the invisible. And then it goes on to describe how these two things connect to that meaning. You also get an upright message and a reverse message, and then a couple of like prompts that you could use for a tarot spread or for journaling. So you have, for the snail and the huckleberry, it says, when have I benefited from trusting in subtle clues, and how can I look beyond appearances toward deeper meaning? So it's a very, very, very usable deck, and it's just very intelligently put together with a lot of really good meanings. It's just well done. Well done. Love this deck. And that brings us to our final pairing, which is the Color Mage Oracle versus the Energetics of Color. I was supposed to be showing this deck in my recent deck roundup, but you're getting to see it early because it's so relevant for this. And the minute I found out about it, I knew I had to do this pairing into this or that. So here we are. Let me put up the poll. So at the time I'm filming, 67% of you would go with the Color Mage Oracle and 33% of you with the Energetics of Color. So let's talk about it. Now, this one, I bought both of these decks with my own money. This Color Mage Oracle is currently out of print. I have done some really cool work with the Color Mage Oracle. And I've edged the deck, so it is in corresponding colors by chakra. So basically, if the side of the card is green, it's a heart chakra card, even if the card is pink, because in this deck, pink and green cards are associated with the heart chakra, because I used this deck for chakra readings for a while. The thing about the Color Mage Oracle is you have this beautiful swash of color, and then you have the name of it. So here we have Luna Moth, and then underneath that in tiny print and light print, you have the meaning of the card, which I can't even read using my viewfinder because it's light text on a light background. If the lighter cards had darker text, this would be a much more usable deck, because here we have it on a dark background, and you can see that grape is intoxication and stupor. Azure is angelic communication. Tincture is find the cure. This has been really fun. I have used it for clients in chakra readings before. I have also used this and had a lot of fun using this when I'm coloring. Like when I'm working in my adult coloring books and I have my huge selection of colored pencils, I will shuffle to draw a few cards to pull together a color palette for what I'm going to color. And I love doing that. It's a lot of fun, actually. But this is one of those decks that I've gotten a ton of use out of. But it doesn't visually excite me. But there is a really good system here. I love the chakra associations. You all know that I love working with chakras, so that's really fun. And I know that this deck is one that people are seeking because it's difficult to get right now. I'm certainly not in a hurry to get rid of it, but I do think I'm going to purgatory it for a little while. I don't want to be in a hurry because this deck isn't something I can easily replace. But I do struggle sometimes to read the keywords on the cards, which bums me out because I want to be able to see what it says, and sometimes I can't. So that's just a usability sort of functionality issue, and the fact that the deck isn't as visually exciting to me as I feel like it could be. So there's that. The energetics of color, I found out about when I went to visit Dawn, and she had a copy of this deck, and I like immediately ordered it. I was so excited. So this, like the Color Mage, also is based on color, and you have these half circles that tells you what color is being represented by every card, and it does name the color just like in the Color Mage Oracle. It's beautifully antique gold gilded, and then you have a single really good keyword, but you have art. Like here we have rainbow, white. I'm going to just keep these in order because I don't know if I'm going to do like a walkthrough of this yet. I have yet to decide. I'll probably pull this back out for recent deck roundup, even though I've covered it here. But champagne, stillness, beige, we have rhythm, but we have artwork. And I feel like it just gives me so much more when I have something visually interesting to look at. I also think that this would pair really well with a collage deck or a photographic deck. I don't have a ton of photographic decks. One of the things that I feel like people really like about the Color Mage Oracle is because it's just color, you can pair it with so many things. Visually, it looks nice next to a bunch of things. But I have another deck that works like that for me, and that is the Sacred Creators Oracle. So I always have that as a go-to for that kind of a pairing. But I really just love, this is one of my favorite colors, this fuchsia color. And I love that it's a person on the swing, and she's swinging like into the moon, and the keyword is unbounded. I love that. The keywords are fantastic. I don't yet know if these can really align with the chakras, but I'm okay with that. I don't use the Color Mage Oracle anymore for a chakra deck. I have better chakra decks that I like to reach for. So for a color deck, I feel like this gives me the shade, so I can still work with it the way I was working with the Color Mage, but it also gives me so much more. And there's a ton of cards in here. I think there's like 77. Yeah, 77 cards. Just tons of cards. Tons of cards. Look at this. I mean, it's just beautiful. I really, really love it. So I'm excited about it. It is new to me, so there's that. But it has me excited enough that I'm ready to put my Color Mage in purgatory and play with just this for a while. Okay, I have been filming for a really long time and have so much editing to do because I could not shut up this video. So I'm going to close this out here. In summary, I have about 10 decks that are going into purgatory. I will keep you all posted over the long term, especially on some of the things that I decided to go ahead and keep. But for now, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I would love to hear your comments and feedback down below on some of my choices. Thank you so much to those of you who participated in the poll. And as always, an extra big thank you goes out to my Unicorn Fam channel members. Thank you so much for supporting my work here on the channel. It means an awful lot, and I love having that space with you. If you are interested in channel membership, there's a join button on my channel homepage or underneath this video, depending on what device you're looking on. I also have a link to the membership in the description box down below if you want to check that out. But in any case, I'm going to close this out. Thank you so much, and until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye!